Coming up on this edition of Judica County Radio, Josh Whitaker and Joe Hamer, the managing partners at Whitaker & Hamer Law Firm and your hosts and practicing attorneys here in North Carolina. Going to get into some legal questions. The executor sold the truck to himself is the first question. We'll also tackle the builder's private road and the text message contract. That's how we're starting off the program. That's all coming up next. You're listening to Judica County Radio.
Whitaker & Hamer presents
Judica County with Joshua Whitaker and Joseph Hamer.
Welcome in to Judica County Radio, hosted by Josh Whitaker and Joe Hamer. They're the managing partners at Whitaker & Hamer Law Firm, the power behind this program, and they're practicing attorneys here in North Carolina. Whitaker & Hamer has offices located in Raleigh, Garner, Cleveland, Clayton, Goldsboro, Fuquay-Varina, Gastonia, and down at the coast at Morehead City for your convenience. I'm Morgan Patrick. It is a pleasure just to jump on and get these legal questions going. You're going to be thinking about your own situation and possibly you need some help. Well, we have it for you. Complimentary consults in and around estate planning, or if you're involved with some kind of personal injury case and you've got some questions, jump on those consults. You can do it at any time. 919-772-7000. It's 919-772-7000. That'll get you signed up. And you can also go to the website, wh.lawyer. Before we dive in on question number one, gentlemen, let's talk about it. How was the week? Josh?
Well, we'll see. We're a week removed from the Canes winning, right? The fallout after the Stanley Cup win.
The fallout? That sounds like destruction. No, it's like euphoria.
You remember Josh wasn't pulling for the Canes. He didn't support them. So
I remember I had strep throat last week, which sucks as an adult. No one gets strep throat. But so we didn't get a chance to get together last week. But I think the week before I was predicting it would be 3-1 Canes after the first four. I think that's what I was predicting. If we go roll the tape, if we could. I know we're not supposed to do that.
That was close.
Yeah, but so that worked out pretty well for Raleigh.
For all of us, Josh. For me, for you, for Morgan. We live here. We're very excited about it, man.
All the bars and restaurants that the Canes visited this past week, I think that's still going on. Mm-hmm. I did get some insight on the cup. Obviously, every player gets it for a certain amount of time. Didn't know how much time, but I guess I dove in on one of the many podcasts that's out there that just focuses on the National Hockey League. But apparently it's 18 hours. Each player gets the cup for 18 hours. And I remember back in 2006, it was in the area quite a bit, and there were house parties and people would come over to see the cup, touch the cup, get pictures with the cup. But you also see these guys who take it home. So with 18 hours, that's a tight window. So it's probably going to stay local. I saw it. It was making the rounds down in the 5 Points area in downtown Raleigh. Mm-hmm. Also made it up to North Hills this week. People just celebrating. Obviously, when this show is airing, it is going to be a parade day on Saturday, downtown Raleigh. So if you are partaking in that, be careful. It should be a lot of people downtown.
Yeah, that's the cool thing about the Stanley Cup, though. The trophy lives its own life. You know, if I had a major league franchise, I would do that. I would copy that right away. You know, that's a cool thing.
Well, they got a couple of guys that's their job.
Yeah, I saw them. They were on ESPN relentlessly there for like a week or two.
Yeah, they host the cup. They travel with it. And when these players have the cup, obviously I don't think they're at all the individual parties, but they drop the cup off. They come pick it up. It's supposed to be there at a certain time. But how do you put that on your resume, right? What do you do? Oh, I haul a cup around all year long.
It's a very important job, man. It's almost as important as being on the radio.
That's right. It's not quite the elevation of radio show and radio show hosts, but it's close.
Not many.
So that was fun to watch. I'm not watching much soccer. I've never been a big soccer guy, so the World Cup's kind of passing me by. I'm watching a lot of baseball, which hopefully we get. Hopefully this helps us get a baseball team, right? The success the Canes have had, the amount of people that are coming out to stuff. Hopefully that helps us well in baseball, MLB expansion.
Yeah, well, Tom Dundon was on the ice in Vegas, and one of the reporters almost maybe first 5 questions in, he said, I don't want to jump the gun here, but, and they started talking about baseball. And you see what we saw as far as away games and the amount of fan participation and
tremendous fan support, man.
Yeah, selling out Lenovo for an away game just for a watch party, and then an additional 5,000 people outside in the parking lot. Canes hosted it very, very well, and they highlighted it. It's all over social media, and if Major League Baseball is watching, and I know they are, there's an opportunity probably in this area. So many people want to go to Charlotte. I think the support, the meter of just crowd approval and fan support here in this area is pretty strong. So it would not shock me if baseball takes a really serious look at us.
You'd be real excited about that, Josh.
I'd be at every game, man. I'd be at every game.
You get behind that more than our beautiful, successful Hurricanes.
I grew up with baseball, you know.
I didn't grow up with hockey, but I sure do like it, man. I really do.
Well, that's really all I remember from this week. I watched a lot of hockey. I watched a lot of baseball. Got to the beach. I had strep throat. That was really my week in a nutshell.
Well, guys, we are recording during the week, but coming up on the weekend when this show airs, it's Father's Day weekend. Any big plans?
Oh, it is that, right?
Yeah.
No, man. Yeah, no. Just
I'm gonna say hey to my dad.
Yeah,
Go
I'm
say
gonna
hey to my dad.
say hey to Josh's dad too. It's on the docket for me, man. So,
how about you, Morgan?
Oh yeah, heading to the mountains.
Yeah.
Going to see my pop and spend some time. And obviously Sunday is going to be the final round of the U.S. Open golf tournament. Always a tough test. Shinnecock Hills is hosting up on Long Island. So classic golf course. The setup very, very hard. So if you're a golf fan, you got that to look forward to. But yeah, happy Father's Day to all the dads out there.
So this is we eventually get around to talking about the law, right? That's what we're here to do. We're lawyers on a show that talks about the law. We like to talk about sports sometimes, right? But I feel like the last segment should just be the bets we did well on, right? I feel like our last segment would be like intro, talk about some sports, get to the law. Most of the show's about the law. Right? We get to it for most of the show. And then like the last 5 minutes, I think we should review me and Joe's betting history. And
Did you do well recently, man? I know I did. I did very well recently.
No, I have not.
Yeah, I had a good Sunday, man. The Canes really did me right, and yeah.
And we're talking, and just for our listeners, you guys bet fun amounts, little amounts.
Yeah, we're not. Yeah. None of us have a serious gambling.
You're not staying up. 48 hours in a row.
Oh no,
heater.
We would never. No,
these are just fun little bets.
It's just for fun. Yeah.
Yeah, the Canes scored too little or too many for me when I was betting, and then I really thought I thought the Spurs were gonna get the Knicks, man. I was a firm believer that the Spurs were gonna get the Knicks.
I think
I did not have a great week.
You can think that for, I understand why you thought that, but that really unraveled for him, man. Really
I don't know which game it was in the NBA Finals, but I tuned in, and I want to say the Spurs were up at half 76 to like 41.
Yeah.
So the Spurs scored 76 points in the first half, and in the second half of the game. And again, this is just me, it's a personal opinion, not a huge NBA fan. The Spurs, that team, scored 30 points in the second half of that game, and they lost. And I'm sitting there going, how is this possible? This is the highest level of basketball in the world. And it's like they don't play defense in the first half, and then they can't hit the broadside of a barn in the second half.
And then they just collapsed. I mean, the mistakes that they made were incredible, man.
I'm like, these are the best ball peyers in the world?
If you bet,
are these the best coaches?
If you bet on the Knicks at the lowest point of those games when they were down, like the lowest amount, I think someone said if you put $100 on it starting with the first game and rolled it over every game, you would have won like $2.2 million, like something ridiculous.
Well, again, we need to take a break, guys. We'll come back. We can surmise, maybe some of the NBA talk if we want to, and then we'll get into some legal questions. We do have complimentary consults with Whitaker and Hamer in and around estate planning, or if you're involved with a personal injury case and you've got some questions on how to proceed, grab one of the consults, 919-772-7000. That's 919-772-7000. You can also visit wh.law. Good resource for you there. You can get signed up as well. We've got more Judica County coming up on the other side. Back on Judica County Radio, hosted by Josh Whitaker and Joe Hamer, managing partners, Whitaker and Hamer Law Firm, and practicing attorneys here in North Carolina. Offices all over the state, down at the coast, Morehead City, over near Charlotte in Gastonia. You also have Fuquay-Varina, Goldsboro, Clayton, Garner, Cleveland, and the Cap City, Raleigh, North Carolina. I'm Morgan Patrick. Pleasure to jump on with the attorneys. We're going to get some legal questions here in just a sec. Also, the complimentary consult available through estate planning or possibly personal injury case you're involved with. You've got questions. You can grab one of those consults at any time during the show. Just call the number, 919-772-7000. They'll set you up, 919-772-7000. You can always visit the website, wh.lawyer. All right, Josh, you want to wrap up our thoughts on anything before we get into legal questions?
No, I was just going to say I grew up in North Carolina. I was a Hornets fan. I like the Charlotte Hornets. That's my NBA team. So I've always hated the Knicks. I didn't like Michael Jordan's Bulls, right? I liked the Hornets.
Yep.
So I was rooting for the Spurs. That's all I was going to add. I wanted the Spurs to put it together, even though I don't like a lot of their team. Anyway.
Yeah, the last time I gave a rodent's backside about the NBA was when Jordan played. And,
Well, that's because you're a Carolina guy.
That is correct. Yeah. And he is the most spectacular player to ever lace him up. Thank you very much.
Well, we can get into that. We can get into that another day. He's not a bad player. I think we can all agree.
He's not a bad player.
He's a top 50 player for sure. There's no debate there, Morgan.
No, he's a top number one player. And LeBron a distant second. But anyway, legal question.
I think you're forgetting about a player who was very good about the same time as Jordan, who scored a lot of points, Kelly Tripucka.
Yeah,
Charlotte Hornets.
Yeah,
of the Charlotte Hornets.
He was fantastic.
He was all we had that one year, man. It was Kelly Tripucka or nothing.
Well, always been a big Kelly Tripucka fan.
All right, so let's get into these questions. First one up, and again, take these with a grain of salt. See what the attorneys would do. The exact category is the executor sold the truck to himself. So here's the question. My father died owning a classic 1972 Chevy truck. It's worth about $45,000. My brother was appointed executor. 6 months later, we learned that he sold the truck to himself for $12,000 without getting an appraisal or telling the beneficiaries. He says nobody else wanted it and the estate needed cash. Is that probably going to be allowed?
All right. So we design these questions to kind of bring up, certain issues that we want to talk about here on the show. We talk a lot about estate planning, and the other side of the coin, estate planning is preparing for your death. Estate admin, that's how your heirs are going to handle your final wishes after you're gone, right? So it's like two sides of the same coin. And we spend a lot of time talking about estate planning, but I also like to talk about what happens when you're gone, right? And so here, a father died, right? We know a father died. We know that there was a will because a brother was appointed executor. And so that executor, we talk about this a lot, Joseph. We talk about a fiduciary duty, right?
Yep.
So the law always is concerned. If something happens under the law, it's concerned, well, what duty did you owe this other person who's complaining, right? And so here we've got the other siblings complaining, like, hey, you got basically a $45,000 truck for $12,000. So you've gifted yourself. That's the argument there. You've gifted yourself some money. You showed yourself preferential treatment. What duty was owed? And so under normal circumstances, Morgan, Joseph, I don't owe you much of a duty, right? Just as a guy sitting here on a radio show.
Well, a moral duty, but a legal duty.
I can't punch you in the face.
You can't kill me. You can't assault me. But yeah.
You got some basic rights, but basically I don't owe you any special duty. I owe you the same duty that I would owe anybody on the road or anybody I met in public, which is just kind of, your standard ordinary negligence type standard, right? So when you become executor of an estate, now you owe a fiduciary duty. And we talk about that's a special relationship, a heightened relationship, where not only can I just, it's more than just punch you in the face standard, right?
Yeah,
so
you
like,
still, for the record, still can't punch people in the face as the executor. But yeah, you got more responsibility. You're kind of a steward for these beneficiaries, and you have to look out for their interests in addition to yours. And the law puts a lot of weight into that responsibility.
Yeah, and I like that word steward, right? You're in charge of these assets for the beneficiaries, and so the executor here is also a beneficiary, I would assume. But you can't waste assets, you can't convert assets, you can't steal assets. You got to get the best value for all the assets. You owe that duty, and so when you don't do that, you violate your fiduciary duty. And here it doesn't sound good, right? Maybe the brother did. They said there's no appraisal in our fact pattern, so I don't know how we know the truck's worth $45,000, but the brother bought it for $12,000. But assuming it's right, this is probably going to get the brother in trouble. He's probably going to have to reverse this transaction, and this isn't done in secrecy, right? The clerk, here we talk about this. Here there's an executor, there's a public estate file downtown. Anybody can look it up. The brother, as executor, is going to have to explain to the clerk, hey, here are all the assets that my father had. Here's how I valued them. Here's the supporting documentation. These were sold. And a clerk can disallow. I'm imagining a clerk would disallow this and say, hey, man, you can't do this.
Yeah.
Or you need to get me some documentation showing the truck was broken down, needed brakes, needed all this repair work. You got to give me something to show that it was worth $12,000. And then as a heir, the person asking this question, the other sibling, can always challenge this kind of thing. So,
yeah, and it's not to say that at the end of the day that this person's going to have some liability for it, and but scrutiny, right? These things are scrutinized, and anytime you're an executor, if you're an executor and you're a sole beneficiary, self-dealing doesn't really matter, right? Because you're taking everything. But when you've got other individuals, court's going to look at self-dealing a lot more closely, and from this fact pattern, this person's probably got a problem.
Yeah, this guy, if this guy can come and say, hey, man, I listed it at 45 in this magazine or this listing where classic car collectors look, and I went to a dealer and they said they'd give me 12, and no one took me up, and I had it offered for sale. There's all kinds of ways to maybe prove. There's plenty of things. Like I can say I have a 1954 Mickey Mantle and it's worth $8,000. Mm-hmm. There might not be anybody out there who's willing to buy it at $8,000, right? So what an appraiser says it's worth maybe isn't a big deal. It's what the market will bear, and that's always kind of a moving target. So there's all these things you can use to show fair market value. So maybe the brother's got something in his back pocket, but he's going to have to show he offered. And not offering it to the other siblings is kind of a red flag too, right?
Yeah,
because this brother should have gone and be like, hey man, we need to sell this truck. We need
sneaky.
Some cash.
It was sneaky.
It's not moving. I'll give 12. Will anybody give any more? Blah blah blah. Anyway,
but before we leave this conversation, guys, do you have any collectibles? Obviously, if you do,
you especially, Josh. Morgan and I are trying to put our inventory together for when we rob you ultimately.
Well, no. Obviously, it's in safekeeping. But do you guys have any cool collectibles?
This reminds me, I can't remember the guy's name. There's a senator, and he's against senators trading stock, right? Uh-huh. He's a part of that movement.
Yeah.
And they asked him, well, where does he keep his money, right? If you're not trading stock with like these other senators, and he goes, all my money's tied up in baseball cards and comic books.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
And I feel like that's kind of where the old baseball cards get me. But what do you got, Joseph?
Collectible wise?
Yeah.
7,000 Beanie Babies.
Ready for action?
Yeah, no, I don't have that actually. Not much, man. Not much. Maybe I need to get on it. I don't know. I got cards as a kid, but I don't think I didn't take great care of them, Like I like to hold my cards and
be one with your cards.
I got a bunch of old WCW wrestling cards that are worth like maybe $3 for a pack. So I don't think that's going to get me very far. But
I like that stuff, man. I hit that age where the stuff that I liked as a kid gives me a lot of pleasure, right?
Yeah.
Now, like the old video games and the old. Anyway, I know we're up against a break.
Yeah, let's take that break again. Complimentary consult with Whitaker and Hamer in and around estate planning and personal injury case. If you're involved and you got some questions, call right now, 919-772-7000, 919-772-7000. You can also visit wh.lawyer, get signed up for one of those complimentary consults, 919-772-7000 or wh.lawyer. Back after this. We're back on Judica County Radio, hosted by Josh Whitaker and Joe Hamer, managing partners, Whitaker and Hamer Law Firm, practicing attorneys here in North Carolina. Offices in Raleigh, Garner, Cleveland, Clayton, Goldsboro, Fuquay Varina, Gastonia, and in Morehead City for your convenience. I'm Morgan Patrick. Pleasure to jump on with the attorneys. And during the course of today's show, we do have complimentary consults, estate planning questions, or maybe a personal injury case. Grab one of the consults with the attorneys, 919-772-7000. They'll set that up for you. No cost, no obligation. 919-772-7000. You can also visit wh.lawyer. So back at the questions. Here's the next category, guys. The builder's private road. So here's the question. A developer built a subdivision with a private road maintained by the HOA. 20 years later, the road is falling apart and repairs are going to cost $750,000. Homeowners thought the city would eventually take over the maintenance, but that never happened. Can the city probably be forced to accept this as a road and obviously take care of the repairs?
yeah, probably not. That's a really unfortunate situation, man. And I feel for these homeowners, but yeah, municipalities are under no obligation to accept a road, right? And so, generally speaking, if the intention is for a road to become public, you know, the developer is going to record their plat. It's going to be dedicated as public, and then there's going to be requirements where they have to meet certain standards before, you know, the state or the city will take over that maintenance. If the intention from the jump is that it's a private road, then, you know, your developer is going to maintain that until they are going to hand over control to the homeowners, and at that point, that's a homeowner problem. You know, it's as simple as that.
Yeah, there's a lot, you know, just in my career, I've seen these issues litigated a lot between, you know, a developer. You know, a developer is a developer, you know, and they're going to come in and they're going to develop the property. And like Joe said, whether the road's going to be private or the goal is to make it public, that's going to be known from day one, right? As soon as the plat gets recorded. Because some subdivisions want to keep the road private for all kinds of reasons. And some want it to be public, or it has to be public because of the way it was developed. But those aren't question marks, right? We know from day one what the intent of the development was. But developers are not, they're leaving, right? As soon as it's developed, they're out of the picture. They don't want to be around. That's not their job. And so usually for a road to become public, there's a process. It has to be dedicated, like Joseph said, and then it has to meet certain requirements. Mm-hmm. And roads are not permanent, right? Roads are like anything else. Over time, they're going to decay. Elements to prevent flooding and water decay are destroyed. Rowdy teens. Sometimes rowdy teens destroy...
rowdy teens, man. They're out there.
Rowdy teens.
Yep. Rowdy teens.
What are rowdy teens doing to destroy roads? Is that skateboards,
so a lot of times when
e-bikes?
So a lot of times, you know, there's public requirements. So if the DOT is going to take over a road, it's got to be a certain width. It's got to be marked a certain way. It's got to, you know, there may be some water flow issues, right? When you put in a road, there's some issues with water flow and groundwater, and so they might have some instruments to collect it, send it other places. And a lot of times builders, people just maintaining their lawn who don't know what it's there for, screw all those things up. And what's going to happen is when the subdivision is done, if you want to hand the road over, the DOT has a whole unit, and they come out there and they do an audit of the road. And they say, okay, this looks good, this doesn't, this doesn't, this doesn't. And the DOT is not going to take over a road that's not in perfect shape. And a lot of subdivisions figure that out 20 years after the developer's gone. And sometimes it's not the developer's fault. Sometimes it is. But anyway, there is no, like Joe said, there's no obligation that the DOT or any municipality take over road maintenance. Mm-hmm. And not only is there not an obligation, they ain't going to do it.
They ain't.
Unless it's in tip-top shape.
That's right.
And most of these roads are not in tip-top shape. So what happens is the subdivision, the people running the HOA figure out, like, hey, we need $200,000 in upgrades to even get this to a point where the DOT is going to take it over. And people don't like to spend that kind of money. And HOAs don't like to raise dues for that kind of money. Anyway, here, this was always, in our question, it seems pretty cut and dry. It was always going to be a private road. The HOA should have always known that they were going to have to maintain it. I don't know why the homeowners would have thought the city would eventually take over the maintenance if it was a private road from the beginning. These people just have a private road, and they're going to have to maintain it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or not maintain it, man. You drive through some of these subdivisions.
Yeah,
man,
just let it be, man. Just
swerve the potholes.
Yeah, who needs it? Who needs a car?
Or maybe you got
tires.
those neighbors who'll go out there with all the gravel, right, and fill the really deep ones.
Yeah, those are good people, man.
Those are good people.
Yeah.
All right, let's hit another question, and then we'll take a break. Here it is. The text message contract is the category. Here's the question. I agreed by text message to sell a vacant lot for $85,000. We exchanged dozens of messages, agreed on price and closing date, and even discussed attorneys. 2 weeks later, the buyer found a better property and backed out. Do I probably have an enforceable contract?
I don't like the way that's worded. Do I probably have an enforceable contract?
Yeah. But with that said, our answer is going to include the word probably 50 times.
Probably.
I don't think we can condemn this person. And that's going to be our go-to. So
this brings up the statute of frauds, right? The statute of frauds. So any agreement for the purchase of real property, and what is real property? It's land. Right? House. Yeah. Any contract for the purchase of real property has to be in writing, has to be signed. It has to have certain things in it, and text messages just ain't gonna cut it. So that's the statute of fraud. Some things just have to be in writing, and that's just the way it is. And contracts for real estate, real property have to be in writing. We'd have to see the text messages. Maybe there's enough. Did something get e-signed? E-signing isn't the best, but can be used in some requirements. But if you ain't got a contract, I mean, I don't know. So like if he's going to sell it to you for 85 and he got a better offer for 95 and he ditched you, there might be enough there to sue him and make him really think about, is the $10,000 he's going to get from this other person worth, a lawsuit, right? Yeah. Maybe there's enough there to make him think about it.
Yeah, you're it's probably better than just a verbal agreement, but it ain't as good as like an actual this complies with the statute of frauds type of situation.
Yeah, I mean, but the big overriding message is, due diligence, get it in writing, have a contract, work with attorneys. Don't just assume that a text message agreement is going to be viewed as a contract.
Yeah, that's right. So
now this guy is not an honorable fellow, right? If he's
he's not taking gravel out into his neighborhood's potholes.
No. He's not He's not the guy who's cutting the tree when it falls across the road. He's not that guy.
No.
But what you need to learn is that, hey, whoever this guy is, don't ever deal with him again, right?
Yeah.
He's not. His back in the day, listened to a lot of mid-90s rap.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of phrases in mid-90s rap that I feel like should have survived into 2026, and they haven't survived.
Do we have an arable example of the phrase?
I'm getting to one, yes.
Okay.
And so I tell them to my kids a lot of times, and I was like, that's a cool phrase, right? Word, that no. But a lot of rappers in the 90s would say, my word is bond. You heard that in a lot of rap, like my word is my bond.
Yeah.
And this guy, his word is not his bond, right? If this was the Wild West and he had shook your hand and he did this, you could probably shoot him, I think.
All right, that took a turn. Took a turn, but
yeah, my word is bullet.
Yep.
Okay, there you go. All right, listen, we've got to take a short break. We want to remind you, too, we do have complimentary consults with Whitaker and Hamer. If estate planning questions or maybe a personal injury case and you've got questions there, grab one of the consults, no cost, no obligation, 919-772-7000. Get your questions answered. That's 919-772-7000. You can also visit the website, wh.lawyer. We've got more Judica County coming up. Judica County Radio, hosted by Josh Whitaker and Joe Hamer, managing partners, Whitaker & Hamer Law Firm, and practicing attorneys here in North Carolina. Offices all over our great state: Morehead City, Gastonia, Fuquay-Varina, Goldsboro, Clayton, Garner, Cleveland, and the Cap City, Raleigh, North Carolina. I'm Morgan Patrick. Pleasure to jump on with the attorneys. We hit these questions, legalese questions, and we also give you an opportunity to get on their calendar. No cost, no obligation consult on either estate planning or personal injury case that you're facing. 919-772-7000, the number to call. That's 919-772-7000. You can always visit the website, wh.lawyer. All right, we are jumping to this question, gentlemen, the corporate veil question. That's the category. So here it is. A contractor performed work through an LLC. After causing major property damage, the LLC dissolved and has no assets. The owner lives in a $1 million house and drives luxury vehicles. Can we probably pursue him personally?
So this is an interesting question, but we're missing a lot of facts. Mm-hmm. This whole sentence, this after causing major property damage, okay, what is that? To what, how? The LLC dissolved and has no assets. There's a timeline there. There's a lot of facts that would be very important to this question. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill in the gaps. I'm going to assume this LLC was a construction company. And I'm going to assume this LLC was doing a renovation project and then left halfway through. And now the owners want to sue the LLC. And I'm going to say, so the piercing the corporate veil, when somebody sets up an LLC, when they set up a corporation, when they set up a company, if they operate the company in the right manner, they protect their personal assets. That's why people do that. That's why when you hire the law firm of Whitaker and Hamer PLLC, you're not hiring me and Joe personally. You're hiring the LLC, and the LLC has insurance, and the LLC has assets. And so in theory, if you were ever to sue me and Joe, you're suing the LLC. You're not going after me and Joe's meager baseball collection. You're not going after our personal assets. You're going after the assets of the business, because the business is who you hired. The business is who you retained. And one of the things that we talk about when we talk about this is the business can't be, we call it undercapitalized. You can't start a business that has nothing, no insurance, go out there and do work for folks, and if something goes wrong, get sued and say, well, I got you.
Well,
yeah, I've already spent your money, and the LLC doesn't have any assets, and whatever. The law doesn't like that. That's not what an LLC is supposed to protect. Your personal assets, but it's not supposed to do it at the expense of the people that deal with the LLC. And so here we're missing so many facts, but there's probably a case to get to this guy's personal assets, but it might be hard. It's not going to be easy. That's part of the consult, is we talk about, well, what kind of damage did they cause? What did you pay? What did the contract say? This guy should have had insurance. You dissolve the LLC before everything. There's rules on how you dissolve your company. Mm-hmm. You can't just dissolve your company because you think you might get sued one day, because once you lose that LLC protection, then your personal assets are fair game. So anyway, that question, we could talk about that question for an hour if we had the facts.
Let's do it, man. Let's just buy some extra airtime.
Let's create a few facts.
That's what the people are yearning for.
We'll go into overtime this Saturday, Sunday afternoon, but no, that is probably actionable. But it's a bad situation to be.
We have complimentary consults with Whitaker and Hamer, and if you've got an estate planning question, maybe a personal injury case, grab one of the consults, 919-772-7000. That's 919-772-7000. No cost, no obligation. You can also visit wh.lawyer. We got more legal questions coming up on Judica County. Judica County Radio, hosted by Josh Whitaker and Joe Hamer, managing partners, Whitaker and Hamer Law Firm, practicing attorneys here in North Carolina. Offices in Raleigh, Garner, Cleveland, Clayton, Goldsboro, Fuquay, Varina, Gastonia, and in Morehead City. I'm Morgan Patrick. Pleasure to jump on with the attorneys and hit some legal questions. You're going to have questions about maybe a situation that you're involved with, and we have complimentary consults with the firm in and around an estate planning question or maybe personal injury. Just give us a call, 919-772-7000. That's 919-772-7000. Or you can visit the website, wh.lawyer. All right, we're going to jump to our next question. Here's the category, revocable trust and second marriage. Here's the question. Widower created a revocable trust, leaving everything equally to his 3 children. 10 years later, he remarried but never amended the trust. He recently passed away. Does the new spouse probably have any rights here?
Well, a lot of probablys in these questions. These questions don't want a firm yes, no. They want to. The new spouse probably has rights. You cannot disinherit your spouse. In North Carolina, it's constitutional. It's in the North Carolina Constitution. Your spouse, your widow, you can't disinherit them. Mm-hmm. You just can't do it. Not even by accident. No, or not even on purpose, I should say. In North Carolina, a spouse, whether they've been disinherited completely or they're left $1, a lot of people think that's the trick. Well, I left her $1. Well, that's not enough. If a spouse is not satisfied with what they were left in your estate, they can file for an elective share. It's a statute. And that elective share gives them a greater percentage of your estate, depending on how many kids you had together, things like that. And so that's how North Carolina makes sure that you don't disinherit your spouse, because the spouse can always take an elective share. Spousal allowance is the first $60,000, right? So it doesn't matter what your will says. And then there's an elective share, and it's used a lot. We see it a lot as attorneys because people, remain married for whatever. Everybody has their reasons, but maybe they don't really like their spouse, or they want to leave money to the what do you call it? Their not spouse, their mistress, their sweet thing.
Yeah, their sweet thing. That's what you call yours. So that's the terminology we'll use.
So people do that and they think they're being smart. And then it's very easy for a spouse to come in and like, oh, nope, I'm going to file for my elective share. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter that things went into trust. Things can be pulled out. The court can, has a lot of power in certain situations. And an elective share, court's going to go back and pull things back into the estate, so anyway, the lesson here is you're not going to be able to disinherit your spouse. So if you don't really want your spouse to have anything when you die, you probably should get divorced.
Yeah.
That's not legal advice. That's just practical advice, because you're not going to disinherit your spouse.
It's a little bit of both.
All right. Well, the questions keep rolling. We're going to go to this one, guys. And this may be happening in our area. I certainly see a lot of these. And the category is the solar farm lease. Here's the question. A farmer signed a 35-year solar farm lease paying $1,200 per acre annually. 10 years later, the solar company assigns the lease to another company that stops communicating and falls behind on maintenance. Can the farmer probably terminate the lease?
Well, here we've got a lease.
Yeah.
That's good, right? We've got a written lease. And you know what that written lease is probably going to tell us, Morgan?
I have no idea.
It's probably going to tell us what the tenant can do if the tenant, what the landlord can do if the tenant, landlord being the farmer, the tenant here being the solar panel company, he's probably got some rights in that lease, but those rights probably involve him giving them specific notice, right, about what needs to be done. Here's where you're falling behind on maintenance. Here's what should be done. You didn't do it. And giving them probably 30, 60, 90 days to cure that default. Mm-hmm. Withholding your rent is usually rarely the first thing that you can, or terminating here. Sorry, here terminating is not the, no, he's probably not going to be able to unilaterally terminate a written lease.
Yeah, and the lease is going to control, right? Like, so assuming he's got a very good lease, then he's probably going to have, plenty of recourse to be able to make this situation right. Assuming he does not have a very good lease, it could be tricky, and it could be a lot more problematic. And not to say that he can't still get to that point of termination, but he may have to jump through some more hoops to do it.
Yeah, I meet with a lot of people, and that have like this kind of question. I'm like, okay, well, what does the lease say? Oh, I don't have the lease, or I didn't get a copy, or it's 15 years old, or I pulled the lease online and it didn't contemplate this issue, But yeah, when there's a writing controlling an agreement, right? Life insurance contract. We talked about an offer to purchase on real property earlier, a trust, a lease. When the question is, hey, we've got this problem, what are we going to do? That's the first thing we're going to do. Is like, okay, well, let's go back to the lease. Let's go back to the trust. What we have a writing. That's a win, right? Because I don't want the text message guy, right, or the verbal handshake guy when things go wrong. I want the person who's like, yes, we did have a written lease. It's 118 pages. Here it is. And I was like, well, this lease is probably going to tell us what we do from here. So that's probably what we're probably here. This is probably a good sized lease. I bet this lease is 70, every bit of 60, 70 pages. Maybe not. But again, these solar farms, a lot of times they record something, right? They put something on record down at the Register of Deeds that makes this lease a public record. And so the farmer here is really going to want to deal with this company and get it figured out, because they probably have a cloud on title. Yeah. There's all kinds of things that could go wrong.
So pretty good possibility there's a paper trail that can be followed up on, and as you mentioned, Josh, just having a lease itself, at least you've got, that's a great starting point.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we've got opportunities for you as far as starting points. Maybe you got some questions about estate planning. Maybe you're involved with a personal injury case. Josh, real quickly, let's talk about those complimentary consults, exactly what's going to happen if they can grab one.
Yeah. You just give us a call. Like I said, we've been doing, as part of the radio show, we've been doing free consults for estate planning. All right. So if you want to talk about a will, you want to talk about trust, you can sit down with me or Joe or one of our attorneys, talk about estate planning for free. We'll tell you what we think you should do. We'll tell you what it costs. You'll have all that information for free. And like Morgan said, we handle car accident cases across the state of North Carolina. So you've been in a car accident. If you have questions about your rights, if you're having trouble dealing with your insurance companies, the insurance companies don't always play nice with you. We're happy to sit down for free, and you'll know stuff, right? You'll sit down with us for free. You'll get some knowledge. You'll get some information. We'll let you know how we can help, and then you can accept our help and hire us, or you can move on forward with that free knowledge you got from us. So those are kind of the free consults that when we talk about, that's what we're talking about.
All right. Opportunity to grab one right now. 919-772-7000 is the number to call. That's 919-772-7000. Again, estate planning, maybe a personal injury case. You got some questions. This is no cost, no obligation to become a client, but you'll get some knowledge back. 919-772-7000. Again, 919-772-7000. You can also visit the website, wh.lawyer, and you can get signed up there as well. Well, we've got more Judica County Radio coming up. A couple more legal questions, and we'll wrap up the show. More Judica County right after this. We are back on Judica County Radio. Your hosts are Josh Whitaker and Joe Hamer. They're the managing partners at Whitaker and Hamer Law Firm, practicing attorneys here in North Carolina. And again, Whitaker and Hamer, the power behind this program. Offices all across our great state: Raleigh, Garner, Cleveland, Clayton, Goldsboro, Fuquay-Varina, down near Charlotte in Gastonia, and over at the coast, Morehead City. I'm Morgan Patrick. Pleasure to jump on with the attorneys and hit these different questions. You're going to have maybe some questions about estate planning or maybe a personal injury case. You can grab one of our complimentary consults at any time by calling 919-772-7000. That's 919-772-7000. Or visit the website, wh.lawyer. And again, no obligation means you'll get some information. You're not obligated to become a client. But if you want to roll forward, you certainly can. 919-772-7000 or wh.lawyer. All right, next category, guys. The AI estate planning disaster. That's the category. Here's the question. A man used AI to draft his own will, trust, power of attorney, and deed package. After he passed away, it turned out the witnesses signed the wrong pages, the trust wasn't funded, and the deed had the wrong legal description. His family saved $2,000 on legal fees, but now face years of litigation. What probably happens in this case?
So AI can do a lot of stuff. It's amazing what AI can do. I know Claude just rolled out some tools for the legal community. We use AI when we can here at the firm when it makes sense to automate simple tasks and things like that. And it can be a real godsend. But at least as of today's recording, AI, there's a lot it can't do.
Mm-hmm. But that changes rapidly, man.
Yeah, I know. That's why I said as of recording, right? Because by the time the show airs, maybe it can do something new and crazy I didn't even know about, But yeah, you don't want. I'm not a big fan, of the companies that promote the do-it-yourself legal. Like I say it on the show all the time. Like I don't want to pay an attorney to do something if I don't have to. I don't want to pay a plumber to do something if I don't have to. I don't want to pay an electrician to do something if it's something I can do myself.
You just don't like paying people money, right? That's just it.
I would rather keep my money and spend it on baseball cards and bad bets, right?
Yeah.
I'd rather that's more palatable to me than.
So it's super understandable.
But there's things I cannot do, and there's things I shouldn't do, right? I shouldn't diagnose my own broken arm, right? And I don't know that we're at a point in our society where I would trust AI to draft my trust.
Yeah.
Right? In North Carolina, there's a certain way to do things. There's certain statutes that need to be followed, and AI is really good at explaining some things. I'll use it to explain certain things to me, but it does not have a good working knowledge of case law. It doesn't have a good working knowledge of probate. It can define what probate is. It can even point you to some statutes. Anyway, AI is not there yet, and maybe one day this opinion changes. But this person probably thought he was doing a really good job. He probably used AI for other things. Will, trust, power of attorney, deed package, and I reviewed a trust. We have in our area where I do a lot of practicing, there's an attorney who's been disbarred, and that happens, right? Not every attorney's the same, right? Not every doctor has the same experience. Not every HVAC guy can figure out problems and do diagnosis, and so every professional is not the same. I think we can all agree to that, right?
Yeah.
Not every financial planner is the same, and so when you seek out somebody to do a job that you've decided, like, hey, I cannot do this for myself, or I shouldn't do this for myself, I am going to hire a person to do it. I know there's Google reviews and there's all this other thing, but you need to make sure the attorney you hire has a good experience. The point being, an attorney who had been disbarred, we had someone who passed away, and I reviewed the docs, and they're not great, right? We've got some problems we're going to have to work through. And this person didn't even go to AI. This person went to an attorney in their community who advertised, like, hey, I do these things, but clearly doesn't, didn't do them well, left some things undone. And that's what happened here. So the AI drafted this stuff. Nobody reviewed it. Witnesses signed on wrong pages. That's not good. The trust wasn't funded. We've talked about that before. Trust is like a magic bucket, but you have to take action to put things in that bucket. Mm-hmm. Things don't accidentally things don't accidentally get into this magic bucket. You have to put them in there. And the deed has the wrong legal description, then you didn't deed your property. Right? A deed will fail for lack of a good legal description. And so we've got all these problems that a competent attorney would have avoided. And I think that's just the point of the question. Like, this is going to be a mess. You know, he's dead now, so if the family doesn't get along, it's going to be a lot of stuff to argue over. But not every professional is built the same across industries.
I was just going to say due diligence, vetting process, attorney selection. A lot of us want to hit the easy button, use AI, and hope it goes well. Obviously, this is an example, hypothetical, that did not go well. So have that process where you're going to select the attorney, and you can do it by word of mouth, referral. You could also go online, as you guys have mentioned. There are a lot of reviews out there available for attorneys, and just pick the right one for your situation and get moving on it. Final question, guys. Let's get into this category. The church parking lot accident. So here's the question. A church allows a local youth soccer league to use its parking lot every weekend. A large pothole causes a serious injury. The church claims it was doing a community service and shouldn't be liable. Is that probably true in this case?
No. No, that's not probably true. So here we need a lease.
Yeah.
Right. Even if there's not really money being, you need a lease. We need, you need to be. This is when you hear the word indemnification. This is what this is. The church probably would want the soccer league to sign some sort of indemnification to show they have insurance for putting on this activity. Because if the church gets sued, which sounds like that's what's going to happen here, right? It was on church property. If an attorney gets involved, they're going to sue the person that owns the property. They'll sue the soccer league as well if that's an entity that can be sued, because they know the church has insurance, right? Church has insurance policy on the church, and they're going to be liable. And so in their lease with this youth soccer league, they need an indemnification paragraph where the soccer league agrees to hold them harmless or indemnify them, pay them money if they suffer any losses as a result of this situation. So, no, doing it for community service doesn't get you off the hook for anything, right? No good deed goes unpunished, as they say. They didn't say that in 90s rap songs. That's what they said in non-90s rap songs. But yeah, no good deed goes unpunished. Doing something out of the goodness of your heart, if somebody gets hurt, they're still going to sue you.
Yeah.
Have a plan. Obviously, choose your attorneys wisely and move forward. We've been going over a number of scenarios, number of questions legally. You've got some questions about possibly estate planning or maybe a personal injury case, and you just don't know how to proceed. You've got those questions. Bring them to your complimentary appointment with Whitaker and Hamer. Call this number, 919-772-7000. They'll set that up for you. Put it on the calendar. 919-772-7000. No cost, no obligation. Consult estate planning or maybe a personal injury case. Call now, 919-772-7000. You can also visit the website, wh.lawyer. Another edition of Judica County Radio in the books. For Josh Whitaker and Joe Hamer, I'm Morgan Patrick. We'll see you on the radio next week.
Judica County is hosted by attorneys licensed to practice law in North Carolina. Some of the guests appearing on this podcast may be licensed North Carolina attorneys. Discussion on this podcast is meant to be general in nature, and in no way should the discussion be interpreted as legal advice. Legal advice can only be rendered once an attorney, licensed in the state in which you live, has the opportunity to discuss the facts of your case with you. The attorneys appearing on this podcast are speaking in generalities about the law in North Carolina and how these laws affect the average North Carolinian. If you have any questions about the content of this show, you can direct such inquiry to Joshua Whitaker at jmw@mwhlaw.lawyer.